Good morning, afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentle people. We are now live for the Zero Effort Age of Empires 4 weekly tournament number 1. That's right, and we're about to go live into our first game. So, there's about 15 matches we might get to today that happen across all different series. There's about 6 rounds. They'll be all best of ones until you reach the losers bracket final or the winners bracket final, and then of course the grand final where they will be best of threes. Anyway, our first match of the day will be SwordPuppy versus Conya. So let's jump straight on into it and let us get going with this match number 1. So we have SwordPuppy. SwordPuppy will be playing your English, and Conya will be rocking your French. So the way these teams work and the way this series works is each player gets to ban a civ, and then they get to pick a. I think it is. Let me have a quick look back at the rules. I was reading them just before. So the map pool is, so the best of 1 will be Dry Arabia, then following, but round 2 will be Altai, and then additional maps across the series. But each player gets to, they just get to select their faction. Actually, there isn't picks and bans, I believe, earlier on in these tournaments. If there is, I'll get back to you with that updated information. But let's have a look here at our two teams. Conya has started off. The French, you expect the early aggression from School of Cavalry coming out, putting a little bit of pressure on with the Knights, and you've got that actually fairly far away gold vein, but it's also near the stone, so I'm a little bit surprised that wasn't moved a little bit further in the middle. They'll save your wood later on in the game when you need to go for that extra TC. Won't matter so much for French because they do get cheaper resource gathering camps. I believe it is 25 instead of 50. There we go, yeah, 25 for those resource gathering buildings. Over on SwordPuppy, he's got himself a huge amount of sheep as he's chasing away the opponent's scout. Almost finds himself a kill too, as there was a lot of damage taken onto onto Konya's scouts. So he's going to be returning back. He's got himself 6 sheep available, so that will be a delicious 1,500 food for when he returns. Now the spawn for SwordPuppy is a little difficult. The reason I say that is this gold vein is very unprotected from the TC. You might have to see an early tower to try and avoid a little bit of aggression that comes out from Conya, being that historically those knights love to destroy you with those early aggressions. So just a little heads up, when we do switch between player views, it is a little bugged. You cannot see the full round of the map of what they've fully scouted. It is a bit of a bug, but we will try and remember exactly what they have seen. So we do know that Conya should have seen this mining camp and also knows where the TC location placement is. However, SwordPuppy's been a little bit more defensive in scouting, searching for those sheep, trying to make sure that the food is secured, and boy, he comes across plenty of those sheep. Oh my god, they just spawn in one by one for him. And he's going to have huge advantage with the amount of sheep that he's going to be able to grab next to his base. I'd love to see an early mill go down and get that research gathering speed tech upgrade for the hunting. Because he's got not only 6 sheep already back at base, that's 1,500 food, but he's got another 1,500 just here in these sheeps alone. So if he gets that gathering speed upgrade, it's going to boost that income, and that will help him get a little bit of a additional military out when he's forcing the villagers out as well. And as I mentioned before, this is what's going to happen if you did leave that mining camp a little bit off to the side. But it shows that our French player, Conya, will be looking at going for an early town centre. So it'll be interesting to see if we see SwordPuppy be able to find the town centre. Because if he finds it, then he should know that there might be a little bit less pressure that you normally expect from a French player. However, if a French player gets that TC up, that's going to be scary because they already get increased villager or reduced villager rate of spawn. Spawn time to produce a villager. There we go. So if they get a second TC out, they can boom hard and it becomes very difficult. But if he spots it out, then he knows he might be able to put a little bit of aggression on with those longbowmen. But it doesn't look like he's going to find it. He's not going to see these villagers that are grabbing this stone. But at least he's getting closer to getting that council hall up and running. He has used all his villagers from the mine camp to this, so might see some early aggression coming out along with them because they're all stacked onto wood and food at the moment. This usually indicates that you're going to be going down the route where you want to get some of those longbowmen out to put a little bit of aggression on your opponent. So even though he didn't get the scout quite correctly, he's reading the game where he wants to put pressure onto his French opponent could come in handy, and Conya's getting very close to getting that 300 resources to be able to grab that extra TC. He's going to start saving up this wood. Should have a TC out by maybe 6.5 minutes with the current gather rate and then the build time. And SwordPuppy has reached and has already got those longbowmen on. So getting that early military up just to make sure to deal with any of the aggression coming from your opponent, also giving you that capability to do it yourself. However, we do not see SwordPuppy going to be preparing to look for anything kind of an economic boon or any really defensive structures. I would love to see a single tower just to make sure that you are safe. And actually, it is now coming up with the outpost. And don't forget, with the English, you can spread your network of castles. This allows you to get an increased attack speed rate. That is one of the more effective ways to deal with early night aggression, is to be able to have an offensive building like that to protect your economy line to force them off. At this stage, it's just all games. Both players are starting to look. SwordPuppy's thinking about again coming in to have a little scout of his opponent. And this is when he's going to start getting some information. We can already see those current resources for Conya has disappeared. He's already going to be grabbing that extra TC, and he's going to drop it at the back of the base. I love this because it's now going to secure your deer hunt, and it's going to make sure that any kind of aggression from these longbowmen are not going to be able to push the French player off gold, which is one of the key resources you need to be able to pump out those knights. And we can start seeing those knights are starting to come out now, starting to get queued up and getting ready to come across the map. But SwordPuppy already has so many units prepared for this that any knights that do come his way is not going to be able to do too much damage. Conya's still having a little bit of a scout looking around. He will find that SwordPuppy's scout is sitting here in the forest and got to engage a little bit. But SwordPuppy is still playing in the dark, has not scouted or have really any kind of information about what your opponent's doing. Conya's going to throw down that blacksmith. He already gets the free level 1 melee upgrade, because that's one of the French's special abilities where they get that free upgrade. And I'd love to see him potentially go for that +1 ranged armor. He knows he's up against an Englishman. He knows that there is a huge potential that he's going to have an armor that's going to be able to deal with him. And here we go. He's going to see all this knowledge, and he's just going to lose his scout as soon as that. He's going to be hiding, but he knows there is 6 pikemen. Remember, the golden number of pikemen to knights is usually 3. 3 spearmen is also roughly the same value as a knight, can deal with each knight. So once you start getting those overwhelming numbers, plus the archers in the back, it's just going to cause so much issues. And now Conya's retreated back to base. He's got chivalry coming on in, but that was a huge gold investment. He might not have the units to be able to deal with this push that SwordPuppy is about to come in with. He saw a couple of knights, and that's all he's seen. He knows he's got a better militaristic advantage right now, and he's going to try and force that. He's behind on eco, so he has to make something happen here, because if this little push doesn't work, he's going to be set behind until he can start getting some stone himself. And this is a nice little move he's doing. He's moving his archers forward. He's going to find himself picks, and then once he sees the knights, pull them back to the stealth forest, because then you're going to engage on them, and then they're going to get caught off guard and going to get stabbed to smithereens. Those pointy boys are laying in wait. He's managed to find himself one. He's caused a lot of idle time here. Got 5 villagers currently idle, 6 now for Conya. And they're just kind of stacking up with the idle time, which is a really good little aggression. We do have 36 to 26 economy though. So even with those idle villagers for Conya, SwordPuppy is still a little bit behind. So let's have a look at that income per minute, and you can see it on the board. SwordPuppy is going to be grabbing a lot more wood because he is going for the longbowmen, so it's going to be a little bit more resource intensive, and the spearmen. but he's a little bit behind on the food and gold as the French player is able to pick it up. So another kill. And SwordPuppy just keeps going on until he gets pressured back a little bit from that TC. So he might decide to rotate around. He's really loving the stealth first, and now he's got a ram coming on up. As we now look at Conya. Conya has got 3 knights and a couple of spearmen. Spearmen are not going to do well in this composition. He's not up against anything that's really going to be able to effective against. This is kind of says, hey, I need to get some kind of building down, get some units out to try and bolster my force. It would have been a lot better if these pikemen were instead archers. Those archers can deal with the opponent's longbowmen, and that is the standard opening you usually see from the Frenches. And now the rams are in. It's starting to pick off villagers. He almost gets an extra. The final volley does clean up the last villager, and the ram is all there just to create a little bit of distraction from that TC. As now they're all coming in, the palings are coming out, but it might be a little bit too late. They take a few hits, but all the pikemen are here and starting to push off the knights. They're turning it back around, trying to fight the ram, but it's such a strong force by SwordPuppy. He's just going to go back in and start fighting it. But the knights, remember, they do have chivalry, so if they survive, they can get on out. Some of the villagers pulled to try and deal with that ram, and that's a lot of idle TC, idle villager time, and a few deaths from those villagers continuing coming in from SwordPuppy. Conya is under so much pressure right now, as he didn't get out any kind of aggression or didn't scout this attack coming in from SwordPuppy. And you can see this, he's still using that ram to keep that TC at bay as they hold up, getting a little bit of health in the background. Remember, archers can throw down camps the longbowmen of the English can throw down camps, get a little bit of health as long as they remain within that campfire distance. And now he takes himself out another house. That's going to put supply cap almost on Conya. And he's just walking around cleaning these up, forcing his opponent, because he knows he's taking off wood line, so he thinks the more wood he destroys from his opponent, the longer it sets him back. And the knights are coming on in, and now the spearmen are trying to defend the ram. They're going to pull themselves back out. They don't want to engage against all those pikemen. And now, I don't know what the archers are doing. They're running on in and they're starting to lose them out of nowhere. We do have that +1 upgrade of the ranged armor for Conya. Look at this ram. He takes 1 point of damage every time the TC hits it. So he's going to be around for quite some time as he's starting to make his way towards the TC. And again, Conya's going to come on in and try and get rid of this ram. He doesn't want to deal with it. And there's pikemen just stab down one of the knights, and now they're forcing back all the longbowmen. Conya, going a little bit greedy with the 2 town centers at the start, is starting to get punished heavily as now his town center is under fire. There's 200 hit points left and being attacked at about once every almost half a second. This is going to be up for at least another 1.5 to 2 minutes unless some of these knights or villagers can deal with it. And there's just archers, they're falling down. Conya doesn't look like he knows what to do against this aggression at the moment from SwordPuppy. More archers come in to reinforce SwordPuppy's line. The knights are thinking about coming in. They take a lot of archers fire, but that really doesn't do too much against the pressure of these knights and the armor. But these pointy boys, look at that. The first volley clears up one of the scouts, and they've turned over to the knights. Everyone's dying. This looks like it's the last ditch attempt by Conya to make sure he stays into this match. And he's trying to find kills. He's rotated a knight into the background. Villagers are dying left, right, and center. There's even a ram being constructed in front of the TC. That is some disrespect from SwordPuppy as he's trying to strike fear into the heart of his opponent. And the archer force of SwordPuppy at the moment just is too strong for anything that Conya can amass. And I think, my friends, it might be a little bit too difficult for for Conya to be able to come back from this. We look at the economy. It is 28 to 35, but there is 0 military. So even though there is still an economy lead for Conya, there's just no military to back that up. It does have a bit of income. There's an archer coming out. We don't have any knights being produced because there's not enough food. They're being used to try and pump out some archers trying to defend. And they walk straight into the TC to try not to die. But the battery ram's going to sit there forever as they burn down that TC. So as we watch this army lie siege to Conya's base, SwordPuppy did that aggression that he needed to find quite early. He grabbed himself those longsmen, backed up by a lot of Spearman. He didn't even know, which is a little bit of an interesting part, that Conya had decided to go for that second TC up the back. And because of that, it was just a little bit of unfortunate for Conya. A lot of the time you expect that the French player is going to be running at you with those knives, causing you a lot of chaos. It didn't happen this time. Conya was a little bit late on getting those knights pumped out to put some pressure onto his opponents. If we look at that villager count, you can see that French, just the naturally increase of villagers over time. And then once he got age 2, he did get that second TC up and he started further increase that advantage. But it was just the military count. He did not have any military until very late into age 2. And then by that time, there was already a substantial mass by SwordPuppy, which eventually bowled over his opponent. So, with that, my friends, we'll be going to a short break as we find ourselves the next match to jump into. Thank you for tuning in to Zero Effort's Oceanic Weekly Tournament. This is Age of Vampires, of course. Check the background out, check the stream title. We'll be coming up with another match very shortly. SwordPuppy will be moving into round 2. He will be taking on... I do have the tournament bracket here, if I can bring that up. Oh, that's a bit weird. Not working out to how I wanted it to. Where are we? Webcam. Let's get that off the field. That off the field. There we go. So we can see here that SwordPuppy will be going up against Huts AU in his round 2 match. So we might follow that through. We might check out, see if there are any other players currently going on, as that match might be a little bit delayed and underway. Anyway, stay tuned because more Zero Effort action will be coming up shortly.